This is TFG and Mike with the GeekCast Radio Network. I would just like to mention that in this episode of ToonCast, because it is dedicated to the X-Men, Spider-Man, and Iron Man Marvel 90s cartoons, I did get permission from that guy with the glasses, Doug Walker, to use the audio from his X-Men theme music video, so you will hear that first before the discussions. And hope that you enjoy this episode of ToonCast. We re-recorded it because the first version just wasn't able to be put on air. So yeah, up next, ToonCast 19.
Okay, Smokey, roll 'em.
Songs that don't need lyrics, but I added them anyway. Ha!
X-Men are cool, X-Men rule, they're no fools, X-Men duel, fighting ghouls, they're not tools, breaking rules.
First you got the Wolverine, Super Mega Death Machine. Gambit's cards are really keen, shine like rubies. Cyclops always leads the team, while sometimes making out with Jean. Rogue and Storm are real hotties, with big boobies. Jubilee, cheerfully, fireworks off with glee, and the beast once at least quotes the book War and Peace. ESP is the key constantly for Xavier! And there's some other X-Men too, but they don't have a lot to do. Just some cameos for you to view. And there's this evil bad guy who lost his parents cause they're Jews. Magneto's his nom de plume. It's true. All these guys want this guy flying high in the sky, really try not to die, getting by knowing why they are the saviors. Xavier's X-Men kick-ass! X-Men is a kick-ass show, now you know!
Hello, and welcome to the 19th episode of ToonCast, brought to you by the GeekCast Radio Network. I'm your host, TFG and Mike, and today I'm joined by Clark, aka Red Random Hero. We are going to be talking about the Marvel cartoons from the 90s. Hello, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we'll just tell people. I normally would just ignore the fact that we've already actually recorded this show, but the previous recording was completely unusable because of my microphone issues. So we're going to re-record this. Actually, it's funny. As I was putting the show together originally, I had contacted that guy with the glasses because I remember he had done a theme song. He added lyrics to the X-Men theme song, and I contacted him, asked him. I said, "Hey, is it okay if I rip the audio from your video and use it in this X-Men, discussion thing?" He said, "As long as you give credit, that's fine." So we actually have the that guy with the glasses X-Men theme music will be before this. You people who are already listening to this will have already heard it, so that's pretty cool.
Well, I'm glad you got it, man. That's an awesome song you did.
Oh yes, very much so. It's very funny. So I think we are going to get right into the show. We will be right back. Alright, it is time for the history lesson, and for the first history lesson of episode 19, we travel back to 1992 with X-Men. X-Men, also known as X-Men the Animated Series, is an American animated television series which debuted on October 31st, 1992. Holy crap, it debuted on Halloween.
That's a great way to start off Halloween.
In the United States, on the Fox network as part of its Fox Kids Saturday morning lineup. X-Men is a Marvel Comics second X-Men is Marvel Comics' second attempt at animated X-Men program after the poorly received half-hour pilot X-Men Pride of the X-Men was broadcast multiple times between 1989 and 1992. The popularity and success of X-Men, along with Batman the Animated Series, which also debuted in the Fox Kids 1992-1993 season, helped launch a number of popular comic-based animated series in the 90s. X-Men was originally to premiere over the Labor Day weekend in September. However, due to production delays, it was pushed to the end of October. The Night of the Sentinels two-part episode originally aired as a sneak preview, even though it truly wasn't ready for broadcast. There were many animation errors in these two episodes, but the errors were later corrected when Fox re-aired the pilot in early 1993. X-Men was one of the longest-lasting series in Fox Kids, second only to Batman the Animated Series. It's most acclaimed and successful to date. Despite its final new episode airing in late 1997 after 5 complete seasons, Fox did not remove the show from their lineup until 1998. The show was also one of the highest rated and most viewed Saturday morning programs in American history. During its peak years, 95 to 96, the show was often shown weekday afternoons in addition to Saturday mornings. And that does it for the history lesson for this one, so we are going to move on to the general memories. I love this show. This is my introduction to X-Men. It was my introduction to comics. Actually, this show is what got me into the X-Men trading card game. And I would like to point out to all you Pokey fans that there were trading card games before fucking Pokemon. So yeah, just an overall great show. Awesome theme song, very, very memorable instrumental theme song. Great characters, a lot of great stories, I thought. What are your general memories of it?
Just like you, yeah, this was my introduction to the X-Men and to the comics. Plus this is also, a way for me and my brother to hang out. Like, every Saturday morning we get up and watch X-Men together. And, it was a lot of fun back when I was younger. I had a lot of fun with him. Right. And also, I was into the trading card game, too. I had a bunch of them. Yeah. And I lost them, and I wish I still had them.
I wish I still had, I believe it was Cyclops' blue team and Storm's gold team cards. Those were my two favorite cards. Wish I still had those.
Me too.
Alright, so we are going to move on to the next segment, which is the characters/voice actors segment. For this one, everybody knows these characters, so, I will go down the list and just name them. I don't want to spend too much. We can, say which is our favorite or what we liked about that character, but I really don't want to spend too much time discussing them because X-Men has, when I was getting the script information for this, probably 95% of the episode 19 script is dedicated to character bios for the X-Men show, the Spider-Man show, and the Iron Man show. So the main cast of heroes, you had Charles Xavier, aka Professor X, who was voiced by Cedric Smith. I thought this was a great introduction to him as far as being animated, as far as maybe somebody reading the X-Men comics at that time, and, actually seeing him, and I really enjoyed the stories with him and Magneto as kind of still being friends and them being in the Savage Land and having to depend on each other because they couldn't depend on anybody else. What did you think of
Professor X? Yeah, this is a really great introduction to him. This is how I remember Professor X. Don't get me wrong, Patrick Stewart is great, but this is who I remember.
Right. I think that they transitioned nicely from this version of Professor Xavier in the 1992 comic or 1992 cartoon to the 2000 live-action film with Patrick Stewart. I think it was. They're almost interchangeable as far as that goes.
Yeah, I agree. They got it spot on in the movie.
And we will not. I'd like to point out because this is dedicated to the Marvel cartoons in the 90s, we will not be mentioning X-Men Evolution at all. That show sucked.
Oh yeah, it did. I never watched it.
Scott Summers, aka Cyclops, voiced by Norm Spencer, is the field commander of the X-Men. again, this is pretty much my introduction to all these characters, and I thought that Cyclops has done really well, especially with the love triangle between him, Jean, and Wolverine. The, I mean, it's just sheer comedy gold when you get Cyclops and Wolverine arguing with each other.
Yeah, they just go at each other over Jean Grey just so many times. It's
Well, they have
just hilarious.
lines, so.
Oh yeah, they had a bunch of one-lines.
Then you have Aurora Monroe, aka Storm, voiced by Ian Morris, then Allison Seeley Smith. Storm's origins are very true to the comics. She was orphaned at an early age and spent her childhood living on the streets. And she does have that fear of claustrophobia. I like Storm in this show, but as I was watching it back on the DVDs, because there are 4 volumes of DVDs, there are 4 different sets, and we'll talk about those later. But does she really have to say what the weather that she is calling up has to do? I mean, really? That was...
I don't know why she does, but she does.
No, that was just kind of stupid to me. I don't know. After watching, I don't know, I think it's probably 50 out of the 70 episodes that are on the 4 DVDs or something. I don't know. A majority of the show is on DVD, and I have all 4 sets. And after about 25 episodes of her saying the same thing over and over and over again, it gets tiring.
Yeah, I agree.
Then you have Logan, aka Wolverine, voiced by Cathal J. Dodd. I wonder if he's related to Mike.
He could be.
I don't know. Wolverine is nearly taken straight from the comics, though he never kills his opponents. It has been implied several times that he would, if the other X-Men were not there to hold him back. He dons the classic yellow and blue costume from the comics. Wolverine is also in love with Jean Grey, who is Cyclops' girlfriend for most of the series. This will always be, as far as cartoon-wise, will always be the Wolverine that I recognize.
Yeah, this is the Wolverine I grew up with. This is the one I always picture when I hear Wolverine or see something related to X-Men.
Exactly. I think Hugh Jackman did a really awesome job with the live-action version of Wolverine. But as far as cartoon-wise goes, this is the best one, I think. Then you have Rogue, voiced by Lenore Zahn. In her green and yellow costume with a leather jacket, Rogue is virtually interchangeable with her early 1990s comic incarnation. She speaks in a sassy southern accent and generally has attitude of good-humored irreverence. Rogue, I wonder if Miss Zahn ever lost her voice, because in the later episodes, like closer to the end of Season 2, beginning of Season 3, there are a couple of episodes where Rogue just screams her head off, and it's like blood-curdling screams.
Yeah, I remember her screaming so much near the end of Season 2. That poor woman who had to voice her must have needed a lot of cough drops.
Then you had Jean Grey, who was voiced by Catherine Disher. As in the comics, Jean Grey is the heart and soul figure of the X-Men, usually seen at the side of Professor X as he discusses the purposes and activities of the team. Her costume is basically the one introduced in Uncanny X-Men number 281, where she joins Storm's gold team, although her red hair is tied back rather than hanging loose. I don't know. Jean was probably my least favorite character in the first 2 seasons. Once she got to the whole Phoenix saga, I liked her a lot better. I thought she was kind of bland in the first 2 seasons.
Yeah, to me, Jean Grey was always a minor character up until the Phoenix saga.
Yeah.
Then she was like, the main show.
Yeah, and plus she didn't have that ratty costume on anymore. She had a different one.
Yeah, the Phoenix costume was a lot better than what she started off with.
Oh, yes, very much so. Then you have Henry Hank McCoy, a.k.a. Beast, voiced by George Buza, who I believe he had a guest cameo appearance in either X-Men 1 or X-Men 2. I don't remember. I'm not really sure. But that was a nice nod to the animated Beast. Beast is seen as the gentle giant. Beast is a kind-hearted and incredibly intelligent person. In the episode Beauty and the Beast, Season 2, Beast's other side is shown when he falls in love with a young blind patient who he is treating. Um, I really like this Beast. I thought it was really cool, and I like the fact that they always have him quoting uh, literature. I thought that was really good. I think the most that he quotes from is the book War and Peace, um, which I don't know
Yeah,
gives.
Beast. Oh, keep going, sir.
Oh, I was going to say Beast gives a more intellectual or philosophical vibe to the show.
Yeah, he does. He's very intelligent, if you would say. And for some reason, I've always got Beast and Wolverine mixed up when I was younger because they both had pointy hair. From so then when I got older, oh, okay.
And then you have Remy LeBeau, or LeBeau, aka Gambit, voiced by Chris Potter from 1992 to 1996, and then by Tony Daniels in 1997. Gambit was originally from New Orleans and speaks with a thick Cajun accent. He is seen as the comic relief and very laid-back character. Gambit's past is explored in the episode Externally Yours, in Season 2, revealing his affliction with the civil war between the thieves and assassins. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Oh. Gambit, this is how Gambit should be portrayed. Not that crappy portrayal that they had in X-Men Origins Wolverine. He's really flashy when he wants to be. He's constantly flirting with every hot woman that he comes into contact with.
That's great for a show. Yeah, Gambit has always been a ladies' man, and this is how I always picture Gambit. Like when I think of Gambit, this is what I think of. Hair up in the air and wearing that brown leather jacket.
Yeah.
Not that guy in the movie. No, not him.
No, not him, not at all. And then you have Jubilation Lee, aka Jubilee, voiced by Allison Court, the youngest of the X-Men. Jubilee is a somewhat carefree girl who wants to be seen as an adult in the eyes of her counterparts. I understand that she was put in for the plot. I understand that she is part of the team in the comics and everything else, but I don't know. I think between her and Jean, they're my least two favorite heroes. I don't know. I just didn't.
Yeah, Jubilee always got on my nerves.
Yep.
Since she's the youngest and she's a teenager, still learning how to use her powers. But what can you do?
Really. And then the last one for the heroes for the X-Men is Morph, voiced by Ron Rubin. He was a member of the X-Men and a close friend of Wolverine who was apparently killed in the first episode by Sentinels. He reappears as a recurring villain in the second season, where it was revealed that Mr. Sinister saved and brainwashed him. I think Morph was another one of those comic relief type characters, because I remember in the very first episode when Jubilee is walking through the mansion after Rogan Storm save her, she walks by the room where Morph is watching TV, and he's turning into the senator and the president, and then he turns into Jubilee, and it's just really, really funny.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed that part because Morph was, like you said, the comic relief. He made everything better. Well, not better, just easier. Everything wasn't so serious with him. He was just having fun.
Right. Excuse me. And then you have a bunch of teams. You have X Factor, Alpha Flight, Xavier's Security Enforces, which was the Resistance. This was in the Bishop's future. It was basically when Master Mold, when Forge is a servant of Master Mold, having been transformed into a cyborg, like his counterpart in the Age of Apocalypse. There's one thing I didn't bring up in the original recording. In this alternate future, Wolverine is a member of the Resistance along with Bishop and Shard, Bishop's sister. There was one part of the future that Bishop goes back to where they changed the whole thing when I'm trying to think, I think it was the episode One Man's Worth, when they were trying to save Xavier's life. He goes into his own future, Bishop does, and he sees a completely different Wolverine and Storm, and they're married to each other. Now, A lot of people, especially at that time, I never thought of Storm and Wolverine being married to each other, but I thought it was a nice twist on an alternate timeline. I thought that was a nice little story there.
That's a very twisted future.
And then you have, in the clan chosen in Cable's future, you have Cable, Nathan Christopher Summers, who is, he is Scott and Jean's son, but apparently Jean was cloned, and I believe one of her clones was Madeline Pryor, and that's who Cable's real mother is, but Scott is, Cyclops is his father. Let's see. Then you have the Exterminators, which I don't remember any of them, really. You have the guest allies like Moira McTaggart, a former love of Professor X and researcher of mutation. You had Banshee, aka Sean Cassidy, Moira's fiance. And then, of course, Phoenix. The entire saga of the Phoenix is retold in the third season, divided into 5 parts. The Phoenix saga, in which Jean acquires the power of the Phoenix, and then the battle for the M'Kraan crystal, and the Dark Phoenix saga, showcasing the battle with Hellfire Club and Phoenix's transformation into Dark Phoenix. You also had Colossus, and let's see, who else? Nightcrawler. Can't go without talking about the show. Talking about Nightcrawler. Archangel, who is actually my probably my favorite character out of this show. Archangel's origin was retold in the series, where Apocalypse creates the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Angel goes into a scientist who claims he can quote-unquote cure mutancy, but is actually Mystique, a servant of Apocalypse who turns him into death. Angel also makes a cameo appearance in the Beyond Good and Evil 4-part episode as one of the original X-Men in 2 flashbacks, bringing up continuity errors elsewhere when Cyclops, Beast, and Jean Grey do not know him. In this version, he overcomes the Death persona to become Archangel, and thanks to Rogue, who saps the evil that lay within him when she touches him. I don't know, I just like the Archangel, the good version of Archangel character that is with the team. I thought he was a really, really cool character. Let's see, who else here? I was looking for Magneto. Where is Magneto? There's, as I said before, there's just so many characters here. Of course, you have Magneto, who is voiced by David Hemblin, and I must point out also, later on in the season, and I have no idea why, I'm actually going to skip all the way down to the voice cast here so I can look this up. I'm not really sure why Magneto in the IMDb cast list is listed as being voiced by David Hemblin. But later down the line, they have a listing for Eric Magnus Lencher, who is voiced by George Murner. Well, Eric Magnus Lencher and Magneto are the same guy. So I knew there was something off when I was watching, like, say, the 3rd episode of the series in Season 1, Enter Magneto, where his voice is like this really, really deep, echoing type of voice. And then in the Beyond Good and Evil saga in Season 4, he sounds less like that. He sounds more like toned down. And there were 2 different voice actors for Magneto. So, and then of course, you have Sinister, and then Apocalypse. Apocalypse had a really, really cool voice, I thought. That was like super godlike for a voice.
Yeah, he was really, he really make you feel, small with that voice.
Very much so. Going into the voice cast a little bit, this voice cast is really great for the roles that they had, but with the exception of maybe 1 voice actress, I don't know any of these people. They haven't been in anything else that I've watched as far as animation, as far as voicing. The only one that I actually recognize is Tara Strong. She played Ileana Rasputin, who is Colossus's little sister. Other than that, I don't know who any of these people are. I'm glad that they voiced the characters that they voiced, obviously, but yeah, I have no idea. And the voice actor who voiced Apocalypse. His name is James Blendick. Wow, that's a horrible name to have.
I want that last name.
No, you don't.
No, sir.
So, who would you say is your favorite hero and villain?
Um, I'm gonna have to go with Rogue as my favorite superhero, X-Men. I mean, what can you say about Rogue? That's already been said. You know, she's Rogue basically. And my favorite villain would have to be the Juggernaut because he's just huge. He would just knock you down and just run right over you.
Mine would have to be Archangel and Apocalypse. I don't know why, I just like those characters. I thought they were really cool. They had really good storylines. So going into the behind-the-scenes segment, the series was directed for 13 episodes. It was directed by Larry Houston. Some of the writers are, of course, Stan Lee, Michael Edens, Mark Edward Edens, David McDermott, Marty Eisenberg wrote 5 episodes. Robert N. Skur wrote 5 episodes. Len Wein. And then, of course, you have the classic comic book ones, Jack Kirby, Dave Cockrum, Chris Claremont, John Byrne. Overall, really, really great writers. Obviously, Stan Lee, just super awesome guy. So going into the actual show here, for the synopsis, the show features the X-Men similar look and lineup to the early 1990s X-Men drawn by Jim Lee, composed of Cyclops, Wolverine, Rogue, Storm, Beast, Gambit, Jubilee, Jean Grey, and Professor X, as well as original character Morph, an adaptation of previous X-Men member Kevin Sidney. Though they were not part of the team as featured in the animated series, the following X-Men have all guest starred at least one episode: Colossus, Nightcrawler, Emma Frost, Forge, Havoc, Polaris, Cannonball, Banshee, Iceman, Archangel, Longshot, Dazzler, Sunfire, Psylocke, Cable, and Bishop. Keen-eyed fans may also spot cameos by other familiar mutants such as Feral, Rector, and Blink. A number of famous storylines and events from comics are loosely adapted in the series, such as the Dark Phoenix Saga, Days of Futures Past, the Falanax Covenant, and Legacy Virus. The third episode, Enter Magneto, features a confrontation at a missile base. This is largely based on the X-Men's first battle with Magneto as told in their 1963 debut, X-Men number 1. The Season 4 episode, Sanctuary Parts 1 and 2, which involved Magneto creating an orbiting heaven for mutants, were influenced by several storylines from the comics, chiefly the first 3 issues of X-Men Volume 2 and the Fatal Attractions crossover. Just overall, this show, as I said before, just has really great storylines, I thought, for it being an animated show. And yeah, there are continuity errors as far as the episodes go, but honestly, I really didn't notice a lot of them. I don't know, I just didn't. But, yep, just a really, really great show. And then, of course, you have alternate versions, which I'm really not going to talk about because, the people in different countries tend to butcher stuff. Then, of course, you have some trivia here. In the comic version of the fight between Storm and Callisto, they dueled with knives instead of staves. Let's see what else. The first time that people fear what they don't understand is mentioned is in episode Night of the Sentinels Part 1. The creators of the show have also altered the way Jubilee joined the X-Men. In the comic books, Jubilee met Dazzler, Storm, and Rogue in a shopping mall in the issue. She made her way through the Gateway's portal back to the X-Men's base in the Australian outback, as featured in Uncanny X-Men number 244. Gambit and Rogue do not appear in episode Enter Magneto. Let's see what else. And there's like 4 different continuity errors. In Reunion, Professor X's gloves disappear for one shot when he is chained to the wall. For recurring themes, I would say that, I don't know, there are actually so many different recurring themes, obviously dealing with, technically, X-Men did deal with racism, I mean, you have racism against mutants. You look at the Friends of Humanity, and technically they are, racist against mutants. So that is one recurring theme. Moving on to the music. Again, as I said before, the theme song, I can start like moving my finger along with the theme song, even if I'm not watching the TV, even if I just hear it. Just an awesome, awesome theme song.
Yeah, it's the kind of, it's like it stays with you forever. It's like it's always in your head, or it's always gonna be, part of your childhood.
Yes, very much so. Currently, there are no soundtracks for the show, which there should be.
Yeah, I want a CD of all the music from the show.
Yep. All right, so we're going to move into the legacy segment. The reception for the show is widely considered one of the best television adaptations in its prime. X-Men garnered very high ratings for a Saturday morning cartoon and received wide critical praise for its portrayal of many different storylines from the comics. The show currently has a score of 8.9 out of 10 on IMDb.com and 8.9 out of 10 on TV.com. In 2009, IGN ranked X-Men as the 13th greatest animated show of all time in their top 100 list, which my regular co-host Kevin and I have pretty much ripped up the IGN top 100 list as far as animated shows, because those people don't know what the hell they're talking about.
No, they do not. It should have been higher.
Should have been. Let's see. There are tons of video games for this show. You have X-Men: Children of the Atom. Some other ones is Marvel Superheroes, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and 2, X-Men Mutant Apocalypse, X-Men, X-Men 2, and another X-Men game. A lot of these video games are really cool. The ones I remember playing the most is the X-Men versus Street Fighter and then the Marvel versus Capcom games. Those are really awesome.
Yeah, those are real fun to play, and I play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 a lot on Xbox Live, and I've had so much fun playing. And the team I use the most are mostly X-Men characters like Cable, Cyclops, and either Magneto or Ryu.
When I was getting information for this show, there were so many VHS releases information for it. I'm only going to talk about the Pizza Hut exclusives because really, who owns a VCR anymore these days?
I certainly don't.
Yes. At the height of the series' popularity, Pizza Hut sold 2 VHS tapes, and they also contained roundtable discussions between prominent names such as X-Men creator Stan Lee and 90s writer Scott Lobdell. And the episodes that are on those is Night of the Sentinels Parts 1 and 2 and Enter Magneto / Deadly Reunions. The DVD releases in 2009, Buena Vista Home Entertainment began releasing X-Men the Animated Series on DVD in Region 1 in volume sets. The releases named X-Men Marvel Comic Book Collection are 2-disc sets. To date, 4 volumes have been released. Volume 1 and 2 were released on April 28th, 2009. Volume 3 and 4 were released on September 15th, 2009. Unfortunately, Buena Vista Home Entertainment decided to release the episodes on volumes 3 and 4 in air date order instead of correct production order. Thus, there will be numerous continuity errors. As of 2000, let's see, that's Region 2. They are probably going to be releasing the the Volume 5 set, probably the beginning of next year, beginning of 2010. That's normally how they do that. They wait a couple of months, but it definitely will come out. And with the success of these, hopefully we'll get more Marvel shows on DVD.
I hope so.
Let's see what else here. All right. I think why don't we just give our final thoughts on X-Men here, and then later on we just go straight into the closing. So, what are your final thoughts on X-Men?
I love the show, and I'm miss watching it when I was young, and I still might miss watching it now. It's like this is what brought me into the X-Men, and what brought me into the comics, the video games, and the whole story for the X-Men, and hopefully soon I'll be able to buy the DVDs.
Well, you could always ask that big fat red guy in a suit.
That's true. I can ask for the DVDs for Christmas, and I should.
All right, so I think that we are going to move on. We'll be right back. We are back, and up next in the Marvel cartoon universe is Spider-Man, also known as Spider-Man the Animated Series. It is an American animated series starring the Marvel comic superhero Spider-Man. The show ran on Fox Kids from November 19th, 1994 to January 31st, 1998. The producer/story editor was John Semper Jr., and production company was Marvel Productions. Reruns can currently be seen on Jetix Europe and Disney XD. That is the history lesson. We're going to move into the general memories. As far as general memories for the show, this was, as with X-Men, this was my introduction to Spider-Man. I had read a couple of, hand-me-down, covers ripped off Spider-Man comics when I was younger, but this was my true introduction to it. And to the character of Spider-Man. This does a really awesome job of capturing the character from the comic books, I think. What are your general thoughts on it, or general memories?
Well, like you, yeah, this is my introduction to Spider-Man. Even though I knew who Spider-Man was, but this is how I really got to know him.
Right.
You know, and once again to my brother and me, getting up, watching it every Saturday morning, and just hanging out and talking about Spider-Man. Enjoying the show.
Oh yes, very, very much so. And there are a lot of characters in this as well. We're going to get right into the characters and voice actors. And as I said before, there are so many characters on this list, just like the X-Men one. You had, of course, Spider-Man/Peter Parker, who was voiced by Christopher Daniel Barnes. The protagonist of the series and only character to appear in every episode, Spider-Man/Peter Parker was not only a hero, but had several villainous appearances. In 2 episodes of the 3-part Alien costume saga, the influence of an alien symbiote costume caused Peter to become hateful and violent. Later in the series, Spider-Man mutated into the dangerous Man-Spider against his will. I think they really nailed this. And of course, you have Stan Lee, Avi Arad, the 2 of the main guys that deal with, Marvel and these characters and stuff like that. You have these people producing the show and writing for the show and, just being there and, even though it was in the control of other people like Disney, you have them basically there to say, hey, this is what Spider-Man would do, or this is not what Spider-Man would do, or this is how this character is supposed to be. So I think it does a good job of bringing the comics to life.
Yeah, I agree. This is basically watching a comic book on the screen, just flipping through the pages.
You also had characters pop up. Blade and Whistler popped up, which was pretty cool. Black Cat, Felicia Hardy, who was voiced by Jennifer Hale.
Yeah, there's nothing you really say about Black Cat.
Wears hot black leather.
Yeah, that worked.
Daredevil and Flash Matt Murdock. Nick Fury was in the show. Kraven the Hunter. Pretty much all of Spider-Man's villains. The Lizard/Doc Connors, Doctor Strange, Wong, Madam Web. Now, I need to point out Madam Web because Madam Web appeared in the Spider-Man animated series. She was voiced by Joan Lee. the wife of creator of Spider-Man Stan Lee, which I thought that was a really, really nice touch. The producers actually, I don't know if it was Stan that said, oh, hey, if you guys need a voice, I don't think Stan is that type of guy. I don't think he's the type of guy that's going to go to the producers. I'm thinking the producers went to them and said, hey, we need a voice for this character. Would your wife be interested? But I think that's a really awesome way to include the Lee family as far as bringing them into the actual cartoon. Um, so that was really cool. Yeah,
I had no idea that Joan Lee was the voice of Madam Web.
I didn't either until I was getting the research for the show. So you're not the only one that didn't know. You had Michael Morbius, who would eventually turn into the Vampire Bat. The Punisher is in this show. Let's see what else. Iron Man and War Machine make crossover appearances. The X-Men make crossover appearances. Captain America and the Six American Warriors. Let's see. The Fantastic Four. And then, of course, the villains for the show. You have Baron Mordo, Carnage, Chameleon, Doctor Doom, Dormammu, Electro. Electro actually wasn't. We'll get into that later. Electro wasn't supposed to be used in the show at first, but he was eventually. Green Goblin. Actually, Norman Osborn was voiced by Neil Ross, who most people will know him from Voltron and Transformers and a bunch of other stuff that he did in the 80s. So I thought that was really, really cool. Just a whole lot of great characters, both hero and villain. Hobgoblin is voiced by Mark Hamill. So it's basically the Joker flying around on a glider.
Yeah. When I heard the Hobgoblin, I was like, that's the Joker.
Yep. Like, wait. And I had to stop and listen to it. I'm like, wait. Holy crap. That's the Joker. What the hell is the Joker doing in a Spider-Man cartoon? But I thought it was really cool that they had put him in there.
I've always enjoyed Mark Hamill as the Joker.
Yes, a lot of people have. And just, truly a bunch of other villains, all Spider-Man's regular villains, Venom, Vulture, you have some other characters here. Let's see, where is Vanessa Fisk, John Hardesky, who is Felicia. Here we go, J. Jonah Jameson, who was voiced by Ed Asner, which I find very funny because the other main voice that I remember Ed playing was Granny Goodness from Superman and the Justice League. Let's see. Stan Lee actually made an appearance. Stan Lee appeared in the series finale as himself in an alternate reality. This was supposed to be the reality we live in. The powerless Spider-Man takes the Prime Spider-Man to our reality, in which he is an actor who plays Spider-Man. In this reality, Spider-Man is a comic book character that Stan Lee created him. Spider-Man thanks Stan Lee for creating him and making him a hero, then leaves. I think the way that this, other than the fact that the series ended on a cliffhanger with Madam Web saying, you deserve a break and we're going to go find Mary Jane, right before that, excuse me, when Spider-Man goes to leave Stan, after he swings away, Stan looks around like, oh great, how am I going to get down from this rooftop? I thought that was a really funny moment.
Yeah, they really broke the fourth wall in the final episode.
Oh yeah, very much so. Of course you have Uncle Ben and Aunt May. You have Joseph Robbie Robertson, who is Spider-Man's main protagonist. As far as really likes him, really roots for him. Just overall a great cast of characters for this show. As far as the voice actors, as I said before, you have Christopher Daniel Barnes playing Peter Parker / Spider-Man. Roscoe Lee Brown played the Kingpin. Now, I remember seeing him in the David Hasselhoff TV movie Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I was like, wait, that's the Kingpin. You had Jennifer Hale as Felicia Hardy / the Black Cat, Edward Asner as J. Jonah Jameson, Linda Gary, who was Teela in He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, played out May Parker. Let's let's see, who else do I recognize here? Jim Cummings plays Herman Schultz. Let's see, David Warner played Herbert Landon, who most people will know David Warner from either Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, he was the professor, or Batman the Animated Series, he voiced Ra's al Ghul. Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., who also was in Batman the Animated Series, played Dr. Octopus in this. Let's see here, who else? As I said, John Lee. Hank Azaria played Edward Brock. David Hayter. Wow, I mentioned this in the last record we did. David Hayter, the voice of Solid Snake, played Captain America. Now, I'm going to have to go back and find one of those episodes with Captain America in it and actually listen to the voice because I don't remember what he sounds like.
Hopefully Captain America doesn't sound like Solid Snake.
No, I don't think he does. And then you had Greg Berger playing Mysterio for 7 episodes. So there's Grimlock. Let's see. Jack Angel played Nick Fury. Most people will know Jack from being Astro Train in Transformers and King Zarkon in Voltron. Just an overall great voice cast. Yeah, just really, top notch. Rob Paulson playing Hydro Man. So there's a shout out from my co-host Kevin, who is not here. Just awesome voice cast. It just kind of like goes on and on and on. I'm actually surprised that Frank Welker isn't in this cast somewhere. You got Paul Winfield playing the Black Marvel. I remember Paul Winfield from being the voice of the City Confidential narrator on A&E. He was also a voice in Batman Beyond. Of course, Townsend Coleman, who played the middle-aged Silvermane. Let's see, what else here? Just as I said before, just a great cast. What are your favorite characters from this one?
Favorite hero? I would say Black Cat. I mean, Rogue, what can you say about Black Cat? Yep. And my favorite villain?
Yep.
Would be Venom. Because I remember when they did the whole, alien suit thing, that was a big deal to see Venom for the first time.
Yep.
And I was just so excited to see Venom. It was, so cool.
Yes, it was. I think mine would have to be, I like Black Cat just because of the simple fact he's hot, but I would say that mine would it'd probably be Spider-Man just because, I thought they made him look really, really cool in this show. And favorite villain, I would probably say, Doc Ock, just because he was portrayed really, really well in this as well. So moving on to the behind-the-scenes segment. While Marvel's X-Men the Animated Series was being produced by Saban, Spider-Man was produced by a newly formed Marvel Films Animation. It was the only series that in-house studio produced, but was animated by Tokyo Movie Shinsha with Korean studios. This series is the second longest-running Marvel show created after X-Men, as well as the longest-running series based on Spider-Man. It is currently owned and distributed by the Walt Disney Company, which acquired all Fox Kids-related properties from News Corporation and Saban International in 2001. Avi Arad was the executive producer of the show. One of the obligations of working with Fox was to make the show educational by introducing resolvable, child-appropriate social issues. Semper said that he believes Spider-Man to be particularly good for this because the show takes place in real-world New York, making it able to tackle problems, quote-unquote, closer to home. To reproduce the New York-style background, illustrators undertook a large amount of visual research using photo archives from above New York. Particularly rooftops, maps were consulted for references, and buildings were faithfully reproduced. Let's see. Back in the mid-90s, Fox and everybody else was big on censorship, and this showed didn't escape it either. They couldn't mention death, die, dead, or kill. Um, Death and words with strong negative meanings were to be avoided, leading Semper to skirt around the issue. Um, let's see. Let's see. Not using realistic weapons, we all know about that. No firearms could shoot bullets, so instead they fired lasers, complemented by a futuristic sound. Yeah. There's one way to get around it. The canceled film. Now this is interesting. The show's producers were instructed to leave longtime villains Sandman and Electro out of the series due to their use in James Cameron's script. Spider-Man also aired with an introductory episode because this was supposed to be explained in the film. When the project eventually fell through, Semper worked in a flashback into the episode Make-A-Wish and introduced Electro into the Six Forgotten Warriors 5-part episode. Now, I like the fact that there wasn't a introductory episode to the show, simply because, well, as we all know, the 1990s James Cameron version of the Spider-Man film did get canceled, and of course it then became Sam Raimi's job in 2002 to bring it to the big screen. But they actually go back and, as I said, put in a flashback as far as who Peter's parents are and where they came from. And this show actually gives you more than anything I've seen that I've seen personally. And I don't know what it does in the comics, but we pretty much know Spider-Man's origin story to be his parents died. He's living with Uncle Ben and Aunt May. Uncle Ben dies. Now he's just living with Aunt May. So, I liked how this show went back and said, hey, look, here's what happened to his parents. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I agree. I was glad they didn't do an origin story. I'm glad they just started off with him being Spider-Man.
Yep. The series was directed for all 65 episodes. Was directed by Bob Richardson. Some of the writers were Stan Lee, John Semper, Stan Berkowitz, who I know from the DC Animated Universe stuff, Batman Animated Series, stuff like that, Justice League, Marty Eisenberg, let's see, Larry Brody, Len Wein, Michael Eden, Sergina Roth, Steve Ditko, who was also the co-creator of Spider-Man, Larry Lieber and Joe Simon. I know Ditko is the co-creator of Spider-Man from the comics. I think Larry Lieber and Joe Simon are some of the either writers or artists in the comics of Spider-Man. Alright. Excuse me, sorry. Going into the actual show, for the synopsis, the series tells the story of a 19-year-old Peter Parker in his first year at Empire State University and his alter ego Spider-Man. As the story begins, Peter has already gained his powers, is single, and a part-time photographer for the Daily Bugle. The show features most of Spider-Man's classic villains, including the Kingpin, Green Goblin, Lizard, Scorpion, Dr. Octopus, Mysterio, the Rhino, the Shocker, the Vulture, and the Chameleon, as well as more recent villains such as Venom, Carnage, and the Hobgoblin. One Spider-Man villain most recognized not to be seen in the animated series is Sandman. Over the course of the series, the single Peter Parker contends with romantic interests of Mary Jane Watson, Black Cat, and her alter ego Felicia Hardy. And as I said before, this show had a great premise. I thought it wasn't too violent. It wasn't too offensive. I don't think it was more of, hey kids, look, it's Spider-Man fighting his bad guys.
Yeah, that's what hooked me.
Yep. One thing, as far as trivia, I think the only one I'm going to mention here is one thing I found really funny was when Peter gets the Venom suit and he's trying out the quote-unquote outfit switching ability, he has it turn him into quote-unquote that guy from Aerosmith. This is a reference to Aerosmith guitarist Joe Perry, who performs the series theme music. So it's kind of cool. They got Joe Perry to do the theme song. That was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Let's see. John Semper admitted in an online interview that a storyline with Dormammu and Mysterio was originally planned. However, plans for this were scrapped when the voice of Mysterio, Greg Berger, had left the series. The cast of Fox Kids Cartoon X-Men crossover as their respective roles in the Neogenic Nightmare Chapter 4, The Mutant Agenda. Let's see. This would be Eddie Albert's final series and last acting project. Let's see. So we're going to move on to the music here. Again, this is another theme song that everybody from the 90s will, cartoon theme song that they will remember. Just an upbeat, really, really catchy theme. And here's where you're supposed to talk.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the theme song was memorable too, because it was, heavy electric guitar by Joe Perry.
Yep.
And it's another one that you'll remember from your.
Oh yes, very much so. So we are going to move into the legacy segment. For the reception, Spider-Man the Animated Series was one of the most popular shows of the Fox Kids ranking, with an occasionally above other hit shows such as Batman the Animated Series and X-Men the Animated Series. Even after the series ended, it still had an impact on the entertainment industry, boosting sales of myriads of Spider-Man merchandise in popularity. The show was named the 84th best animated series by IGN. Again, IGN, you suck.
Once again, they need to make it higher.
Yeah. 3 comics based on the series produced. Spider-Man Adventures, December 1994 for 6. Spider-Man Adventures, number 1 through 4, later reprinted in Kellogg's Fruit Loops mini comics. A number of video games based on these series were produced. Spider-Man Cartoon Maker for the PC, Spider-Man the Animated Series for the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, Spider-Man for the PlayStation, Nintendo 64, Dreamcast, and PC. The one that they don't list on here, and I should have found it, was the one I remember the most, Spider-Man and the X-Men in Arcade's Revenge. That was a really awesome Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I remember playing that in the arcade and on the Genesis all the time. That was really fun.
For the DVD releases to date, only releases have been several volume sets from Walt Disney Studios Home Entertainment that feature 4 or 5 episodes each. It is unknown if season sets of the series will be released at some point. Now, we can import these. I did look at Amazon.co.uk, and they do have all 5 complete seasons in Region 2. I'm not sure if it's worth importing them, because I don't know if my computer is a region-free player. I don't know if my DVD or DVR my DVR DVD drive is region free. I'm not sure, but I did find them on Amazon, so that's kind of cool. Let's see. For awards, it did win. Writer-producer John Semper Jr. won an Annie Award in 1995 for Best Individual Achievement for writing in the field of animation for the episode Dave the Chameleon. Spider-Man was nominated for one 1996 Image Award for Outstanding Animated / Live Action / Dramatic Youth or Children's Series Special. Let's see. And that's pretty much going to bring this one to a close. We're going to move on. And finally up today we have Iron Man, which was a 1994 series. It was based on the Marvel Comics superhero Iron Man. The series aired from 1994 to 1996 in syndication as part of the Marvel Action Hour, which packaged Iron Man with another animated series based on Marvel properties, The Fantastic Four, with 1 half-hour episode from each series airing back-to-back. The show is backed by a toy line that featured many armor variants. The series of Iron Man was among the few television series to be re-recorded in THX, This may have been usual at the time for a motion picture, but it is rare for television series. Off the heels of the release of the live-action Iron Man film in 2008, reruns began airing on the Jetix block on Toon Disney. It can now be seen in reruns in the United States on Disney XD. That is the history lesson with general memories. And you've never actually seen this. Well,
No,
well,
no, I haven't seen it. I usually after Spider-Man, I ran off and did something else when I was Gil. So
I really enjoyed the second season more than the first season. I thought the second season was much better. Um, so you know, just great characters. There were some good stories. I think it did stay true to the comics, and of course, now with the Iron Man movies, of course we already have Iron Man, and now we're getting Iron Man 2 next year. Hopefully, maybe this will get a Region 1 release on DVD. Alright, so going into the characters and voice actors, for the Allies, you have Nick Fury, Hawkeye. The Hulk made a couple of crossover appearances: Scarlet Witch, Spider-Woman. Let's see, War Machine. Everybody knows. War Machine has appeared in the Iron Man animated series voiced by James Avery in Season 1, Jim Cummings in a few episodes, and Dorian Harewood in Season 2. The color scheme of the War Machine armor, as well as the colors of the other Force Works members' uniforms, changes without explanation between Seasons 1 and 2 of Iron Man. I thought War Machine was a really great character. I thought they did a really good job of bringing him off the page and onto the screen as far as the cartoon. And I can't wait to see what he will look like in the second Iron Man live-action film. For villains, you had Beetle, Black Lash, Blizzard, Controller, Crimson Dynamo, Dread Knight, Fin Fang Foom. He was actually voiced by Neil Ross, so that was pretty cool. Firebrand, Firepower, Ghost, Grey Gargoyle, Justin Hammer. Justin Hammer is the one. He's a human, but he is the rival business partner of Tony Stark, which that was really interesting to have him in the show. And then of course you got the Mandarin, who is pretty much Iron Man's main villain. The Mandarin was the primary villain in the 1994 Iron Man animated series, voiced by Ed Gilbert, and later by Robert Ito. In the series, the Mandarin is an archaeologist named Arnold Brock, who, while fleeing from a desert bandits, falls into an ancient catacomb containing an alien starship, which belongs to this series' incarnation of Fin Fang Foom, whom Mandarin forged an uneasy alliance with. In this catacomb, he finds 10 gems of power. Unfortunately, the bandits that slay everyone else, including his fiancée, Ilona, all the raiders leave behind are his fiancée's rings, with the jewels plucked from them. The Mandarin uses these as the settings for his power jewels. The Mandarin of this continuity is much more altered by the power of the rings. He developed pointy ears and claw-like fingernails, enhanced musculature, and his skin turned emerald green. The cartoon version of the Mandarin was served in his villainy by Justin Hammer, as well as several other supervillains like Blizzard, Black Lash, Dread Knight, Hypnotia, and Grey Gargoyle. Just a great foil for Iron Man. He's always trying to figure out who Iron Man is. And it's just, he was just a really great villain, I thought. Let's see, moving on to the voice cast. You had Robert Hayes as Iron Man, James Avery as War Machine / James Rhodes. Dorian Harewood would play War Machine as well. You had Jennifer Darling. Casey DeFranco played Spider-Woman / Julia Carpenter in Season 1, and then Jennifer Hale played her in Season 2. I much like the Season 2 version better. Then you had Ed Gilbert played the Mandarin, and then Robert Ito played the Mandarin in Season 2. For the recurring cast, you had Neil Ross as Fin Fang Foom. Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. played Justin Hammer in Season 2. Wow. Oh, I didn't know that. Cool. Let's see here. Matt Frewer. Ron Perlman played the the Hulk in the crossovers, which I thought that was really cool. Anytime you get Ron Perlman in a voice cast is really cool. Yeah, overall a really great voice cast. If I had to pick hero and villain, I would probably pick Iron Man and the Mandarin, um, just because they're the main hero and villain, and their rivalry was really cool. Going into the behind the scenes segment, the series was directed by Bob Arkwright and Dan Thompson. Some of the series writers include Stan Lee, Ron Friedman, Doug Booth, Greg Johnson, um, Larry Lieber, Len Euler, Yulee, I think that is. Now for the actual show. Although only lasting 2 seasons, Iron Man was the subject of a major overhaul between seasons when its production studio was changed. The result was a massively changed premise, tone, and general approach, which left the disparate seasons scarcely recognizable as being two halves of the same series. The first season of Iron Man featured little more than Masters of the Universe-style battle of good against evil, as billionaire industrialist Tony Stark battled the evil forces of the world-conquering Mandarin as the armored superhero Iron Man in his evil endeavors to steal Stark's technology and Iron Man's armor. The Mandarin led a group of villains consisting of Dread Knight, Blizzard, Blacklash, Grey Gargoyle, Hypnosis, Whirlwind, Living Laser, MODOK, Fin Fang Foom, and Justin Hammer. To combat these villains, Iron Man had the help of his own team, based on ForceWorks, a then-current comic book team which has since faded into obscurity, including Sentry, War Machine, Scarlet Witch, Hawkeye, and Spider-Woman. The season consisted mostly of single-episode open-and-shut case adventures with two-part stories late towards the end, unlike many other Marvel animated series, despite featuring over-the-top titles that paid homage to the early Stan Lee-written Marvel comics of the 1960s. For example, the Grim Reaper wears a Teflon coat, and Rejoice, I Am Ultimo, Thy Deliverer. Almost none of the episodes were adaptations of comic stories, consisting instead of original stories penned by Ron Friedman, occasionally collaborated on by Stan Lee himself. Let's see. Animation for the first... Let's see, where's the second season? In 1995, Marvel switched the Marvel Action Hour to a new animation studio, as previously mentioned. The animation in Season 1 was provided by Rainbow Animation Group, while the animation in Season 2 was provided by Coco Enterprises. With it came new writers. Ron Friedman was replaced by Tom Tataranowicz for Season 2, and new music for each sequence, coupled with new direction for the series. The first season's subtle keyboard theme music for Iron Man, composed by progressive rock artist Keith Emerson, was replaced by an intense electric guitar theme featuring the repeated refrain of I Am Iron Man, while showing Tony Stark beating red-hot iron plates into shape with a blacksmith's hammer, possibly to mimic the Black Sabbath song Iron Man. Tony Stark's longer hairstyle in the second season was based upon the artist Mark Bright's depiction of Stark from the late 1980s, which is where most of the episodes from Season 2 were based upon. As I said before, the Season 2 episodes I liked a lot better. I think it was mainly the theme song. It was really catchy, and I thought it was a much better version than the Season 1 theme. Let's see here. For the future of Iron Man, a new Iron Man series was in production in France for airing in 2006 alongside a new Fantastic Four series, in effect reviving the Marvel Action Hour, though it remains to be seen if it will be aired together or not. In September 2006, the Fantastic Four series aired on Toonami at 8 p.m. every Saturday. The Iron Man series did not. Moving on to the music segment here. The series original music was done by William Anderson for 13 episodes in 1994. As I said before, the difference between the Season 1 theme and the Season 2 theme it's very, very different. And I don't ever remember the Season 1 theme at all when I was watching this as a kid. I always remember the Season 2 theme. It was much more upbeat. It was more like the X-Men theme and the Spider-Man theme. It basically got you into the show before the show started. Moving on to the popularity, the Legacy segment here. Let's see, for DVD releases, on October 8th, 2007, both seasons were released together in a Region 2 3-disc set from Maximum Entertainment in 2007, back when Disney had the rights to the Marvel shows and before they bought the rights back. The 3-disc set had no features, just included all 26 episodes. There are no plans for a Region 1 release at the present time, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's because I want to see it now.
Yeah. Well, you can go on YouTube and watch it. It is on there.
Yeah, that's true.
When all else fails, go to YouTube.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think we're going to wrap this episode up. It's kind of been dragging on. At least we won't have the audio crap quality issues that we had in the first record.
I hope not.
Oh, no, we won't. This one's been much, much better. What are your final thoughts on, well, at least 2 of the 3 shows?
Well, really, right now, I want to see Iron Man. You know, I want to actually give it a chance. You know, and I hope they release it in America soon. And you know, overall, X-Men and Spider-Man was my childhood. You know, I grew up watching them, and I want to watch them again. You know, and I hope I can get like you said. I'll ask the X-Men DVDs for Christmas, and hopefully they'll start rolling out Spider-Man.
Yeah, hopefully they will. I don't know I'm not sure if they will or not. I do have to mention with the Spider-Man discussion that Spider-Man did continue. It was supposed to continue after the season or the series finale with what was it? The Spider-Wars Part 2. It was supposed to continue, but Fox didn't pick it up or something or other in when did that end? Ended 5 years, 94. After 1998 and 1999, they made a show called Spider-Man Unlimited, which basically it's pretty much the same show. It's a different animation style, and there's a different voice actor for Spider-Man. It's Reno Romano. Most people will know him from playing the Batman in the show The Batman that came out in 2004, I think. 2004, 2005. I forget when that show came out. And he does a pretty good job as Peter and Spider-Man. Basically, the whole point of Spider-Man Unlimited is that he has to go to an alternate Earth to save John Jameson, who is J. Jonah Jameson's son. And this alternate Earth is filled with these bestials and everything else. It's a pretty cool cartoon if you can get into it. It's not the best way, I would say, that they should have continued the series as far as bringing it over from the 94 cartoon, but it's good for what it is, I guess. So we are going to close this episode out. Thank you for joining us here on ToonCast. There are several ways to get in contact with us or leave feedback for the show. The first is you can visit www.geekcastradio.com and find all the other GCRN podcasts there. The second is you can stop by PredicationEmpire.com/CafeSpark and get all your GCRN Transformers discussion topics there. The third is you can leave the show feedback on iTunes. Please do this. I did check this before the show tonight, and I think we have... ToonCast has 5 5-star positive ratings, and I think maybe 1 or 2 2-stars or 1-stars. I don't know. It's fairly positive as far as the star rating on iTunes, so please leave us reviews. The fourth is you can visit the www.earth-2, that's earth-2.net forums, and find our threads for the shows in the self-promotion section. And the fifth is the email address, which is gcrntooncast@gmail.com. We now have a voicemail line. Call us and leave us your thoughts on each episode. Be sure to say which show you're leaving the message for. The number is 502-526-5821. You can also follow us on Twitter. The show name there is GCRN ToonCast. Mine is TFG1Mike. And what is your Twitter?
You can find me at redrandomhero.com. That's R3DRAND0MH3R0.
Yes. We hope you enjoyed this episode of ToonCast and wish you'll join us next time when we'll be reminiscing on The Looney Tunes featuring Ron Algar Watt and Matt Robotham. For now, I am TFG1Mike saying the immortal words of Optimus Prime. Transform and roll out, and thank you for listening. Oh yeah, and Red Random Heroes here. I forgot to say with.
Well, thanks for having me on, man.
Well, yeah, for the second time.
Yeah, for the second time, and you forgot me.
Well, you've been so quiet. It's like you've fallen asleep in the middle of the show.
No, I'm not falling asleep. I'm just.
You'd get fired if you were working for a radio station.
I know. I know. Radio.
Yeah. All right. So see you later, folks.